as well. Okay then, so tonight obviously we're all here because we're going to talk about how to promote positive behaviour and how to do that reward culture within your clubs, how to remain positive and how to give praise where praise is needed. So the aims of tonight are going to be just to give you some hints and tips of how to promote positive behaviour within the club. We're going to provide a more in-depth insight into how children's behaviours are learnt. So I'll just touch on the base of how kind of like they process information and how they decide which behaviours are going to be best for them to be in the club. We're also going to look at ways you can implement positive behaviour in the club and embed it so it becomes everyday practice. Please feel free, if you've got any really good ideas or anything that's worked really well within your clubs, please feel free to share those as well, because it'd be great to hear some actual, have some actual sharing hints and tips of things that have been implemented and is working really well. Just understanding the role that you and your staff team will have in achieving this. And then lastly is we're just going to touch on how to positively discuss challenging behaviours with parents as well, because it's always quite daunting and always quite tricky when we have to tell a parent that their little angel has showed some unwanted or displayed some unwanted behaviour within the club. So just how to deal with that. So to begin with, what is behaviour? So behaviour is the way in which we act or conduct ourselves towards others. Sorry, just the way in which a person behaves in response to a particular situation or stimulus. So it's how we are every day and how we deal with situations. So this is where it gets a little bit technical, and we're just going to touch on how it's all processed within the brain. So within our brains and within a child's brains, we have an upstairs brain and versus a downstairs brain. So the way to think about it is it's like a house. So downstairs of our brains is where all the really important things live, such as our basic functions like breathing, our emotions, how we react to danger. Do we fight? Do we flight or freeze? So it's like, if you think about it as a house, it's like the downstairs of a house is where we find all the basics that we need, such as kitchen, the living room. You might have a bathroom downstairs, a toilet downstairs. So everything that we need in order for us to live within our house. And then upstairs, your upstairs brain is a little bit more complex. So this is where our thinking is, our imagination comes in, planning comes from. So we use the upstairs brain to think critically and to problem solve. And also that then helps us make good decisions and makes us distinguish what's a good decision and what's a bad decision. What's really interesting to know is that, and it's really important that when you're dealing with behaviours with children and trying to understand why they behave like that, is that the upstairs brain is not fully formed until our mid-20s. So actually the downstairs brain is formed first and the upstairs brain isn't. So until you're in your mid-20s, that upstairs brain isn't. So a child will always think about fight, flight or freeze before they think about problem solving. So that's why problem solving and body control and thinking is all taught, and that's how we need to teach the children and to role model, and that's how we need to teach behaviours as well. So just a little bit of an insight there. Then we go on to how the brain makes decisions. So a child's behaviour is firstly largely influenced and regulated by what is described as the downstairs brain. Yeah, so it's fight, flight or freeze. What are they going to do? They then have a part of the brain which is known as the processing mechanism. So this is more like the upstairs part of our brain then, and it's essentially designed to distinguish from the familiar to the unfamiliar, but finds it much harder to tell whether or not something now actually poses a threat. So basically, we input all the information, then you have to decide, is this dangerous? Is this a threat? yes or no. So if it's dangerous and it's yes, that's when we decide, do we fight, flight or freeze? No, if we decide that it's no, then we think, okay, is it novel? What's it about? So yes, do we explore, or no, do we ignore? So that's how we make the decisions. Obviously, a child's brain isn't as formed, and you know, we haven't got that, they haven't got that upstairs problem decision making and problem solving as we have as adults. So they need to distinguish whether it's fight, flight or freeze, basically, and that's when their behaviour can kick in. So what happens is it causes their brain to have a partial shutdown, and then this results in the child struggling to decide what they need to do. And then this is where the result of the unwanted behaviour can come in. So they might want to explore, but it might not be the right thing to explore. So we're saying, no, you can't, let's not do that. And they're thinking, well, why not? I want to do it. And that's when that behaviour can set in, because they're curious, they want to explore, they don't understand the dangers, or they don't understand what damage can be done, or you know that it's not nice to do that, and that's where that behaviour is learned. So I'm not going to go too much into it, but it's just a little bit into how a child thinks. And I'm just going to admit somebody else in. Bear with me. Okay, so then we go on to behaviour triggers. So every child has a behaviour. So we need to decide, what are they? We need to think about, what could these behaviour triggers be? So you as a childcare practitioner and your staff team will notice certain patterns, especially in children that come to you all the time. And within those certain patterns, there'll be certain contexts, and you'll be able to notice potential trigger bouts of bad behaviour amongst most of the children, if not all of the children that attend your club. So some of the triggers could be that they're feeling unwell. If they're feeling unwell, it might give some unwanted behaviour, because they might not feel like they want to be there, they might just want to be home. The weather can cause everyone to be in a bad mood. If it's cold and rainy, you know, who wants to be out in this sort of weather? A new routine, it might be that they're new to the club, it's a new routine, they don't understand it very well. It could be specific relationships, such as they've fallen out with one of their friends that are attending the club, so they've got no one to play with and they feel alone. Anything like challenging situations, independence, rivalry, jealousy, sometimes overexcitement. They're so excited they can't contain it, so that can trigger some behaviours as well. Boredom is quite a big one. We often, when we come and visit the clubs, we'll walk around, and if there's not a lot of things going on and we can see some challenging behaviours, sometimes it is down to boredom, because there's just nothing for them to do in between activities. And that's why we'll always say, have backup activities to stop those. So if you see a child displaying any unwanted behaviour, you just need to really think about, okay, what's the trigger? Why are they displaying this behaviour, especially if it's out of the norm as well. So it's just some things to think about, really, when you're seeing that. So how can we help? So, you know, we want to help the children. They're there to have a good time, right? And if they're having a good time and they're being well behaved, it's going to make our job and our life a lot easier, and it's going to be more enjoyable as well for everyone. So the first thing first is we need to help a child to calm down, and that's the priority. So which is why doing anything that the child may read as a threatening change in your character is only likely to prolong the unwanted behaviour. So if you see that unwanted behaviour and you go right over and, you know, you start showing unwanted behaviour yourself towards a child, or you might act in a different way as you wouldn't have acted before, then that's not going to calm them down. But going over, saying to them, you know, calm down, what's wrong, what's happening, find out what's going on with the situation, that's going to help. If you go full pout in, what are you doing that for? You shouldn't be doing that. Then that's just not going to help at all. They're not going to respond to you. The next thing is to do reassuring talk and distractions. That all has a part to play as well as taking the child into a new and calmer environment. So Although it offers no direct solution, it's helpful to know that naturally reassuring talk and distractions are all have a part to play in it as well. Talking to the child into a new calmer environment, so provided that that doesn't constitute a reward, but moving them away from that area and into a different area or into a different room, if you have that, can also help, because that will give you that reassuring chat that you need to have with the child, so they know, so they can talk to you about what's going on. It might be something a little bit deeper than they just don't want to be there, or they've fallen out with a friend. It might be that they don't want to do that activity. It might be something to do with home. You just don't know. Address fears or reasons. So once you've had that talk and you've distracted them and you've calmed them down and you've managed to get to the root of it, just speak to them and address their fears or their reasons of why this behaviour was displayed. And then that's when you can be sensitive to their needs, offer their support, and then you can think about, okay, how do we minimise this? How do we not do this again? What are we going to do to overcome this? And then over time, it will help the child to learn to manage such situations more independently. So if they're having an argument or a dispute with another child, speak to them. How should we have handled that? Do you think how you handled that was appropriate? Is that what we do in the club? What are our club rules? Things like that. But it's really important that you discuss the unwanted behaviour and explain why it's not acceptable. So just taking a child, getting down to their eye level and explaining to them, this is not acceptable behaviour. This is not how you should behave. But also ask them, get them to take ownership of it. Ask them, do they think that this is the way that they should behave as well? Remember that the immature brain itself makes virtually no distinction between real and imaginary fears and can be relied upon to take everything at face value. So while you're analysing a situation that is happening, just remember that that child's brain is immature. It's itself making virtually no distinction between what is real and what is imaginary with their fears, and they are literally taking everything at face value. So if someone's running up to them, like roaring at them in their face, and that's causing that unwanted behaviour because they're scared, have a think about what is happening around them, what is going on. Is there any fears? Is it that they just can't cope with the environment? What needs to happen to make that environment a better place for that child to cope in? So it's just a little bit more things for you to think about, other than we don't do this in the club, this isn't in our club rules. Just think about the individual child at face value to begin with. So we've also then got some SEND factors to consider. So some children that come to the club will have some SEND needs. So sometimes we're not told about those SEND needs. Sometimes we pick up them as professionals. We know when a child is dyslexic. We know when they've got signs of autism. It might be that they're on the spectrum, they're going through a diagnosis, or that the parents just haven't told us. So also as well, picking up on that and knowing what the triggers are, but also speaking to the parents and seeing if they divulge more things to you. They should tell you if the child's got any SEND needs. They should tell you if they think the child's ADHD, dyslexic, autistic, because you will need to know what those trigger points are and what the tactics are, because it's really important that consistency is key, not just with SEND children, but with all children as well. So we're just going to touch a little bit on some of the SEND factors that do come into our clubs as well. So you'll have some children that are dyslexic or have dyspraxia. So signs for dyslexia is obviously difficulty reading and understanding, memory processing. They'll have anxiety, aggression, could have low self-esteem. Dyspraxia, you'll notice they'll have poor balance, rhythm, posture, and hand-eye coordination. They might be clumsy, they'll tend to fall, trip, they'll be quite tired. So the strategies that we can use, because obviously children can be cruel sometimes. So it might be that you're in cookery and you ask, a child tries to read out, what's on the recipe, and then they're having difficulty reading, or they're having difficulty understanding what's how to pour the measuring cup, into the scales or something. And sometimes children can laugh at that and be like, oh, here we go, this is how you do it. So that can then spark some unwanted behaviour. So strategies to think about are just use clear verbal instructions, break it all down, repeat, have visual aids there, have visual recipe cards that they can see, and also pair them up with someone that they can follow as well. It's always good to have a buddy. Allow breaks. They might just need a break now and again. So when you can see those trigger points starting and you can see that they're starting to get a little bit anxious or starting to show that unwanted behaviour, give them a break. Just say, do you want to go and take a break? Should we go and sit down and have a drink for a bit? You know, there's nothing wrong with them coming back and finishing up. They don't need to finish up with the other children if they don't want to. They can take longer. And just adjust and monitor. So it might be that you just need to adjust what you're doing, not with everyone, but just with those children that are struggling, just to help them. They just need extra time. They might need to go in a space on their own. They might just want to sit out and watch. That's fine, as long as the parents are happy with that, and you speak to the parents about it afterwards. That's absolutely fine. It's down to them what they want. The main thing is that you're managing their behaviour, so that's really important. Another factor to consider is obviously autism. We have a lot of children that are on the spectrum now throughout all of our clubs, and every individual child is treated differently, and we know the spectrum is massive. So, you know, you can have someone that's really severe autistic, but then someone that you wouldn't even know has any signs of autism at all. So what sort of symptoms can we look out for? So abnormal body posture, lack of eye contact or facial expression. An autistic child, when you're trying to talk to them and you're trying to get eye contact with them, they will not want to give it to you at all. Behavioural disturbances, so their behaviour will be few and far between. So it might be that they can't take in being in a big group. It might be they don't like loud noises. I used to have a child come to me who was on the spectrum, and his mom just used to say, if he doesn't want to join in with the activities, just let him sit to the side, and he'd have a calm down bag. And what we'd do is we'd notice the trigger points, and when he had the trigger points, we'd say, do you want your calm down bag? Shall we go and sit in a quiet space with your calm down bag? And he was happy to do that. Or sometimes he'd just go and get it and take himself away, because he knew when it was all becoming a little bit too much, and he knew when the behaviour kicked in. One of the behavioural disturbances he had was that he didn't like to be told what to do. In terms of, come on, you need to come and do this, or you need to finish this off. If he didn't want to do it, you know, he didn't want to do it. You couldn't make him. And if you tried to make him do it or encourage him to do it, he would be like, no, I don't want to do it. And he would absolutely kick off, to the point he'd kick, he'd scream, he'd go mute. He wouldn't talk to us. He'd throw things, where, you know, we had to train staff into saying, look, if he doesn't want to do it, say, okay, that's fine. Even though they thought they were doing their best by trying to say, oh, come on, have a go at it, have a go. It might be that he doesn't want to do it. So it's little things like that, and key information from parents that's going to help you with this.
Can I ask,
Yeah,
what sort of things are in his calm down bag?
Everything that he liked. So he brought different things every day. He might have a car in there, just like a small car, a ball, a book. He used to like bringing books. He used to have fidget spinners in there, fidget cubes, stress balls, just anything that he liked. And we found that he used to love doing beauty school. And his mum was absolutely fine with that. He would let the girls put makeup on him. He'd let the girls put grips in his hair, and he absolutely loved that. And his mum was fine. But yeah, it was just things that he would find useful to play with and just to go through. But more often than not, he would like to just sit down with a book, and it would be a book of his choice, and he was quite happy with that. But yeah, it was just like a few bits and pieces, and it would change over time, really. So have you got anyone that has a calm down bag or anything like that?
No, I think for us, we just would find it quite useful for a couple of our regulars.
Yeah, and it might be something that you know, when you speak to parents about and say, have you considered them having a calm down bag? And it's just a little backpack with just a few things from home in that they really enjoy, you know, using. And sometimes they're quite happy to share with the other children. If the other children come over and start talking to them, they're quite happy to share. It all depends what mood and what stage of their behaviour they're at that it's triggered, really. So it was really useful. They could be sensitive to sound. They could have defects in language comprehension and may have some speech issues. Inappropriate social interaction as well. So, you know, they don't want any social interaction, or it could be really touchy-feely as well, but they don't understand how to kind of like that's not appropriate. So it's up for us to be able to say, you know, if a child goes to sit on a staff member's lap, oh no, just sit by the side of me. Other children might not want to be hugged. So it's just managing that really and explaining to them. But you'll find that with children that are autistic, parents use bubbles. You're entering their bubble. They don't want you in their bubble, or they don't want you in their safe space. So they understand that, and it's about, again, as I said, having these chats with parents and knowing what the consistency is at school and at home as well, and what the language is that the parents are using with them. So the strategies are just to use clear verbal instructions, routine. Autistic children like routine. So just making sure that the routine, you know, stays the same. And, you know, overall our clubs, we've got some sort of routine that never changes, because all the children need that, really. Praise, they love praise. So it's really important that you recognise this and praise the children. And again, allowing breaks, allowing them to relax, allowing them to have that time that they need just to process everything that's going on. And just watch for the signs. So know these signs. I'm not saying that this is for all autistic children, but just know these are the sort of signs that stand out across the board. So just watch out for these signs and just try to manage it as much as you possibly can. And then the next one is ADHD. So this sometimes goes hand in hand with children that are autistic or dyslexic, or it could be just on their own. So they could be hyperactive, constant motion, fidgets, and lack of concentration. I mean, that sounds like most children, right? But we can't label all children ADHD, but most children are like that. They have an impulsivity, so they interrupt conversations, they act without thinking. So it's really important that, you know, you say to them, oh, hold on a minute, we'll talk when it's your turn, it's not your turn yet. And you'll probably find that happens, you know, in their school life and in their home life too. Inattention, so they have a really short attention span, they get distracted easily, and they can distract others. So it might be that those children that you know have ADHD, that you have a staff member with them, so you keep them on track all the time, and you keep them, you know, so they're not distracting others as well, and you just keep their attention. And also as well, they might just need breaks. So strategies, again, real good clear verbal instructions. Routine is really good, so they need to know what comes next. And praise, they love praise, because more often than not, a lot of children that have ADHD aren't really consistently praised. What they are is, don't do that, no, stop fidgeting, stop doing that, don't do that. And you know, that's kind of like where's thin when you're constantly being told no. So actually praising what they are doing can distract them from what they shouldn't be doing. So saying, oh, wow, have you done that? That's amazing. What are we going to do next? Is so much more better than, no, can you stop doing that? Can you carry on with what you're doing? You know, so just think about that language as well. And again, allowing breaks, relaxation. So when you can see they're about to climb the wall, just say, should we take a break? Should we go for a quick run outside? And that could be for every child. So, you know, don't just think, oh, I can only take the children with SEND factors to go and play. No, that can be for every child as well. Okay, so just big thing to remember that behaviours are learnt, and it's really important that children are taught and guided in how to behave in different social situations, and that consistency is key. So how they would behave at school is going to be different to how they behave in the holiday club, because in a holiday club, we're all about fun. We're all about, we want the children to be excited. We want the children to have a really fun holiday. It's their school holidays. However, there are going to be certain behaviours that are installed in school that need to be installed in the club as well, such as being kind. We don't hit, we don't fight, we don't kick, we don't throw things at people, we don't do any name calling, we use kind hands, we use kind words, we tell a member of staff when something goes on. So a lot of it is what they would do in school, but obviously we don't do the sit down and work. We do, come on, let's have some fun. What are we going to do today? So just, it's really important that you understand that those behaviours are taught and we all play a part in it. And that's a really good thing to explain to your staff team as well, because if their behaviour is inappropriate in front of the children, or they're not behaving very nice towards each other, children will pick up on that and they'll think that that's okay for them to do that as well. So it's really important that staff understand that they are role models. So how do we encourage good behaviour? Well, children quickly learn how to behave when they get positive and consistent guidance. Who doesn't? Everybody loves a bit of positivity in their life, yeah? No one wants to be told no all the time. No one wants any negative energy or any negative guidance. So it's really important that we give children the attention when they behave well, rather than just applying consequences when they misbehave. So you'll always have a child in the club that will always misbehave, and you'll always be zoned in on those because you are just waiting for that behaviour to start. But maybe if you turned it round and you zoned in on waiting for that good behaviour, or for them to do something really, really well, and then you'll probably see a great big difference in that, because they'll be looking at other children and be, I want to be like that, I want to behave well. And once you start giving them that praise, they'll enjoy that. So it's really important that you install that into your club. So how are we going to do it? We've already spoken about being a role model. Here's our lovely Mandy, our Rice-Lit franchisee, with her children in her club. And as I've just touched on, we believe that staff should use their own behaviours to guide the children. So children will watch adults to get clues on how to behave. So they'll look at what the staff team do. And it's really often much more important than what they say. So for example, if you want a child to say please, you say it yourself. If you want a child to say thank you, you say it yourself. So when you pass a child something, you always go thank you, or you go, oh please can you pass me that. So it's really important that even amongst your staff team, they're using that really, really good positive language. If you don't want a child to raise their voice, you speak quietly and gently, so children know what's acceptable. So more often than not, in the club, you do sometimes have to raise your voice. You do sometimes have to clap if it gets too noisy. However, it's about the tone in which you use. So, you know, you just go, guys, can we just calm down a little bit, please? Instead of like screaming, you're too loud, let's be quiet. No one wants to hear that. That's not how you should be talking within the clubs. So you just need to, you and your staff team need to think about how you talk to the children, how you address those situations when you need to give instructions and it's really loud. Talking quietly and modelling is really effective and shows the children that they can use their quiet voices as opposed to their big voices. And that's what we use in our clubs. So I will go in my club, let's use our quiet voices now, children, not our big voices. And when it's time to use their big voices, they can use their big voices outside, and they understand that. And it's just a really good way of doing it. And we make sure that the staff role model that as well within the club. So that's really, really important. Number 2, show children how you and others feel. So this is a staff member from Luton doing pumpkin carving. All the children are having a great time there. I think it's Daljeet's sister, actually. So telling a child honestly how their behaviour affects you and others around them helps that child to manage their own feelings and behaviour, and also helps them realise how it can affect others. So if a child is displaying unwanted behaviour, and you do have to address it and you do have to talk to them, If you start sentences with things like I, it gives the child the chance to see things from your perspective. So you could turn around and say something like, I'm feeling really disappointed because there's so much mess to clear away and only 2 children are helping me. So that would be in like a group. The biggest bane is trying to get the children to help tidy up after an activity. I'm sure you'd all agree it's a nightmare. And you're going, can everyone tidy up, please? And in the end, you send all of the children outside with a couple of members of staff and you end up doing it yourself because it's quicker. How much easier would it be if you get all the children involved to help and they understood that? So just by doing those sentences, it's going to really help and really give the children some information about, you know, how they behave in those situations, instead of just thinking, well, if I don't do it or if I run around, it'll be fine. So yeah, and also just saying, that makes me really sad when I see other children hurt other children. How would it make you feel if someone hurt you? Those things like that are things that are going to make the children take ownership of their behaviour. Another one is when you notice a child being good. So when a child is being really well behaved, give that child some positive feedback, because more often than not, we're guilty of honing in on the children that are showing unwanted behaviour. But actually, what about the children that are being really, really good, that are good all the time, that are quiet, that go unnoticed? And they go unnoticed because you're so focused on those children that are displaying the unwanted behaviour. So you could, for instance, if you see a couple of children being a bit rowdy, you know, and you're about to go in and be like, right guys, can we calm down now? Let's find something to do. Let's do this. If you turned it around and you said in like a big voice, wow, you're playing so nicely. I really like the way you're keeping all the blocks on the table, or I really like the way that, you know, you're cleaning your paintbrush before you mix all the colours together instead of putting the green and blue together like they do. It works so much better than waiting for the blocks to come crashing to the floor before you take notice and say, well, can we stop doing that? Can we stop throwing the blocks? Can we stop doing this? So just think a little bit about how you can provide positive feedback to the children and give them that really good descriptive praise, because it just tells children specifically what they're doing really well. And you'll probably find that the other children within the group will follow that and think, oh, I want a piece of that. I want to be able to get that praise. So just kind of like think about that. Also as well, encourage your staff team to try and make 5 positive comments for every negative comments that they make or that they may use to deal with behaviour. So give them a little bit of a challenge. You know, say to them, every time you have to deal with unwanted behaviour and you have to use negative language, I want you to use 5 positive comments. It could be to the same child, the same group of children, but just see how it changes, kind of like the dynamic within your club and within your children. And just remember that if children have a choice between no attention or negative attention, they'll often seek out the negative attention to get that attention that they want. So it's really important that when you're working in your groups of children, that, you know, you're looking at all of the children. Okay then. So the next one is, it's really important to get down to the child's level. So when you're dealing with them, you need to be able to have eye contact with the child, and you really need to be able to be down at their level. There's nothing worse than someone speaking to you and peering over you and looking down at you. It's, you know, I don't like that. It's not very nice. You imagine if you're sat down and someone's talking to you and they're towering over to you, it's not very nice. So you need to be able to think about the most effective way of how you're going to get that child's attention, how you're going to get to their level, how you're going to give them eye contact. And the best way to do it is to get down to their level, sit down on a chair, kneel, whatever you need to do to be able to really get that effective eye contact that you need for a child to know that the child's listening, for you to know that the child's paying attention to you, and also to enable them to understand as well. It will also help the child to focus on what you're saying about their behaviour. If you're at the same level as a child as well and have the child's attention, you don't need to make them look at you. More often than not, I hear a lot of staff say they're down at the child's level, which is great, but they're like, you need to look at me, look at me. Well, actually they don't, because yes, if they can look at you, that's great, but sometimes a child will find it really intimidating to also give you eye contact. But it doesn't mean that they're not understanding or that they're not listening. It's just that they don't want to give you eye contact. They're not mature enough to give you that eye contact yet. So just, really think about that as well. Great if they can give you eye contact, but think about if that child is autistic or has got signs of autism, they won't give you that eye contact at all. But for you just being down to their attention and asking them, can you confirm that you understand what you're saying? That should be enough. So when you say to a child, do you understand what I'm saying? And they say yes, that confirms that should be enough for you. It's also really important that when you're talking to a child about their behaviour, that that they don't feel intimidated, but instead they feel supported, and that they understand the behaviour expectations whilst attending the club. So has any of you got any sort of behaviour charter in your clubs? Okay, don't worry. I mean, if you haven't, you don't want to talk, it's fine. So using a behaviour charter to demonstrate what's expected and to let the children say what should be on there. So I know at Hertford, they used to have a tree with behaviour expectations, and I think they've still got it. I think I saw it in Helen's office. It's a really, really good way of, when a new child comes in, or it's a new club opening in the summer, or you're just opening for February, it's really good to, during those free play times, to get a handprint, get something that the children can decorate, and then you can say, right, tell us what the rules are, write what your rules are. We have one at Solihull. Every child has a handprint, and we pop it up on the board, and the board is in the room. And then what happens is, when a child is displaying any wanted behaviour, we take them over to that board and we say, can you tell me here where it's okay to hit another child? And then they'll be like, well, no, that's not on there. And we're like, exactly, so tell us why you did it. And then we talk about, better ways of handling our emotions, better ways of dealing with things, what they should be doing. And it's just a really, really good way for children to take ownership of what behaviour expectations are in the club as well. So if you haven't got a behaviour charter within your club, I strongly recommend you to get one, because it really, really does help, and it helps give the child focus, and also enables them to take ownership and how to manage their emotions, their feelings, and their behaviours as well. Actively listen. So it's really important that you actively listen to the children that you care for. You can nod as a child talks, repeat back what you think the child is feeling. It shows them, when you do those things, that you're listening to them. So, for example, you can say, once they finish, if they're talking to you and they're saying to you, oh, I'm not happy, I can't play with the footballs, you could repeat back and say, oh, it sounds like you're really sad that you haven't had a chance to play with the footballs. And then when you do things like that, you can then come up with a solution for them. So they'll say, oh, she has listened to me, or he has listened to me. Okay, and then we'll say, tell you what, when we come back outside to play, shall we get the footballs out then, and you can have first go with them. That will then change everything, the dynamic, everything around, and they'll be really happy. And when they come back outside, they'll look for you and they'll be like, do you remember you said I could have the balls? So whatever you promise them, you need to make sure that you make sure that it's delivered. Even if it's not you, and you say to the staff member that they're with, can you make sure that they play with the ball when they go outside, it's their turn, they'll know, wow, they've listened to me actually, so I didn't need to have a tantrum, I didn't need to go and kick somebody, I didn't need to go and take a ball and throw it over the fence, because they've listened to me and now I'm playing with the balls. So what this helps do then, it helps cope with tension, big emotions like frustration, which we all know, if a child gets frustrated, it leads to unwanted behaviour. It then also makes them feel that they're respected and comforted, and it can even diffuse potential temper tantrums, which we've just spoke about. or them lashing out at others, which is something we don't want within the clubs. So yeah, I was just going to say that I've got something written down a while back at Daljit's club, where she did a really good example where she held a club council with the older children in her club. And she asked them what they would like in the club more to ensure that their needs were met. So doing something like that as well is really good, and that shows how you can actively listen. I think that was a couple of years back actually, but if I remember rightly, but it was a really, really good way. I don't know whether any of Daljit's staff members that are on the call tonight remembers that, but it was a really good way of the older children just saying, you know, what they wanted in the clubs.
Yeah, so
Emma.
Hi,
Oh, sorry.
do you remember?
Hiya. Sorry, I was just there in the background. So, Leah, you carry on, my lovely. I'll listen in.
Can you remember, guys, you doing that?
yeah, we did do it, and I think that a lot of the time with the older children especially, they struggle when they see so many younger children around. So giving them the opportunity to have things that they said that they wanted, and that then seeing that that all those things being put in place, that they really felt appreciated, and that, you know, they even though they're older kids and they're so cool, that they could still have as much fun as the younger kids were, just in a different way.
Yeah, and that's a really good way of showing how you've actively listened to them, and you know, you've thought about how you're going to stop that unwanted behaviour from the older children, because it is a little bit harder from the older children to maintain what it is for the younger children. So I think that was a really good example, and one that happened a while back, and one that, you know, I still talk about now, because it's a really, really good example. So if you do have those opportunities with those older children, you notice that, you know, some of them are showing that unwanted behaviour, then yeah, I would definitely encourage you to do what Daljit and her team did, because it sounds like it definitely worked. So Daljit, do you want to say anything about that?
I was just actually going to say, you know, we actually did it from a planning perspective, in regards to, do you know what, guys, you know, you're not sort of engaging in the activities. What is it that you want us to put on for next half term? So they actually did half of our job by planning our timetable to the point. Okay, you want to do Harry Potter or horrible histories or whatever it might have been, and actually gave us ideas. So it can work in your favor, to be honest. And it makes the children feel, you know, when you tell the parents at the end of the day, oh, you know, we've looked at the timetable, we want to know what your child wants to do. That's all the parents care about. It's their child. They don't want to know what else is going on. Yeah. So I think, you know, you can use it in many positive ways.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's a really good positive way, actually. And yeah, I would really encourage everyone, if you can do that, you know, do it with the children, because as Daljit said, it actually helps with the planning. So it will help you as well. So that's a really good example. Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, understanding boundaries is the next one. So you need to ensure that the children understand the boundaries. Because if they don't understand the boundaries, how are you going to be able to deal with their behaviour? How are you going to install that good, positive behaviour? So it's really important that those boundaries are upheld. So if one of the boundaries are, I don't know, say, if you help tidy away, we're going to go outside. But if you're not going to help tidy away, we're not going to be able to go outside. But then you still take them outside. That's not really holding up a boundary. So you have to follow through with those boundaries. It's really important, because this will, in turn, the children will learn to trust and respect you, and be able to learn and trust and respect what you say as well. If you just say, oh yeah, we'll still go outside even though you're not helping to tidy up, and you still go outside, then, you know, the children are just going to be like, they don't mean a thing that they say. So it is really important that those boundaries that you set those boundaries with the children as well, that you follow through with them. It's kind of like you can have like a sand timer, and you can go, right guys, it's tidy up time, we need to do it by the time the sand timer's gone, otherwise we're not going to go outside to play. They'll respond to that really, really well, and God, that room will be cleared really quickly. So yeah, a child learns very quickly about unwanted behaviour and what it can lead to. So it's kind of like we count a lot. I'm going to count to 5, and if you don't put your coat on, we're going to go back inside. So a lot of children in the cold weather will take their coats off. You know yourselves, colds are around and everything at this time of year, so they need to put their coats on. So we use like a counting system, right? We'll count to 5. If you haven't put your coat on, we're just going to go inside. Half the time I see staff count to 5 and then grab the coat and help the child put the coat on, and the child clearly doesn't want to put it on, and they're like, well, okay. And in the end they're like, oh, don't wear the coat then and go and play. No, if the child doesn't put their coat on, they go inside. I always say to my children in my club, if you don't put your coats on and do them up, you're not going outside in the cold weather. And I uphold that. I've had a child stay in with me and miss their playtime because they refuse to put a coat on. But do you know what? Next time it's playtime, they put the coat on, you know? So it's about being fair but firm. And also they need to know that they can't, you know, we're going to get in trouble by the parents if they get a cold. They're going to be like, why have I turned up and they've not got their coat on? It's freezing outside. Oh, because they didn't want it on. Well, then they don't go outside then, because that's what parents will do. So you just need to think about things like that as well. They need to know that unwanted behaviour can lead to consequences, and as long as those consequences have been explained, they'll understand that. So, you know, it's about, you know, if you do any unwanted behaviour, if you hit another child or you use any bad language or you use any words that aren't kind, we're going to have to speak to your parents. No child wants you to speak to their parents. And it's okay to say that, because they need to know what comes next. Because if you don't address it with the parents, one, the parents are going to be absolutely fuming if they don't know what's happening. And another one, the children are going to be like, well, they haven't told my parents, so why are they telling them now? So it's just about being consistent and being transparent with the children. Things like that. So it's another instance is when you stay, right, once all of the toys are packed away, we'll go outside and have a play. So you need to make sure that the children go outside once all those toys are played. So it's not just about if something doesn't happen that they don't go outside or that they don't participate in something. It's about when they do it, right, everyone, let's go outside now. Let's get our coats on, let's get our hats on, whatever, let's go out. So it's really, really important that those boundaries are upheld, and also that those boundaries are done with the children as well, and that they know the consequences. Create a good an environment for good behaviour. So if you've got an environment that's full and as rich as this one in Harrow, you're not going to have any children bored, you're not going to have any unwanted behaviour. They're all going to be engaged, they're all going to be busy, they're all going to be really happy to do what they're doing, and they're going to want to move on to the next station. And this is a classic example, and this is when you plan your activities, always having a contingency plan in place as well. So once that activity is finished, because sometimes activities don't take as long as what they should, some children finish before others, so those children that finish early, what are they going to do? Because you find if you just leave them to their own devices, that's when that unwanted behaviour comes in. So the environment can influence a child's behaviour, so you can shape the environment to help the children in your care to behave well. So it's about having some free play toys out, another activity that they can go to or that they can flick to. Pretty much like there's so many different things going on these stations here, a child can just flick between all of them, and not one child will be bored, which means not one child will show any unwanted behaviour. So it's just really simple to do, and just making sure that this place has plenty of safe, stimulating things for the children to play with or to take part in. It's also making sure that the equipment you have out is relevant, it fits in with the children's interests, it's age appropriate as well, and it's stimulating. And it's not things that they could break easy or that they might hurt themselves on. So it's really important to just think about the environment, and when you're setting up an activity and you've done the main activity, and then you're looking at, okay, what are we going to do for, you know, the backup activity? It's about looking and thinking, you know, what is this environment like? Is this a really well set up environment? Is it age appropriate? You know, if you've got 8 to 12s, what sort of things have you got out for them? They don't want to play with the jigsaw, they don't want to play with the toys or the bricks. You know, what are the things? They don't want to do a ring game. What other things can you have out for them? So it's about thinking about what they like to do. A lot of my 8 to 12s like to do talent shows at the end of an activity. They like to do sports activities, so they might finish their activity and then go out, oh, can we go and play a game around us or something? Yeah, of course we can. Not an issue. We can do that. So it's just about thinking about the sort of things that they want to do. And a lot of my 8 to 12s like playing that game, Wink Murder. They love doing that. Really quick, easy game to do, and they play it for hours and they absolutely love it. So it's just having those contingencies in place and not thinking at the end, oh, okay, what are we going to do? Just be really well planned and think about the environment and think, you know, if you was a child, would you like it here? That's really important. Behaviour rules and boundaries. So this is where you see children squabbling and they might be having a little bit of an argument. So before you get involved in anything a child or a group of children are doing, especially when you're about to go in and say no, or can we stop doing that, just sit back and ask yourself if it fits in line with the child's behaviour rules and boundaries. So just think about, oh, you know, how does this reflect in what we're trying to teach the children here? So just by keeping instructions, requests, and negative feedback to a minimum, you create fewer opportunities for conflict and bad feelings between the children. So you can use the club rules to let everyone know what's really important when dealing with behaviour expectations. And this is normally done at the beginning of the day, just before activities, when we sit down and we have the safety talk with the children and we talk about behaviour expectations. That's when we go through the rules and boundaries. And it can also be done after lunch as well, before we go into that afternoon activities as well. So it's really important that they all know about that and they know what's acceptable behaviour when in the club. And also as well, just involve the children in doing this too, so give them a sense of ownership, so that when they are squabbling between themselves, just step back and think, okay, how are we going to deal with this, and see if they can resolve it first. And then if they can resolve it, then I'm not telling you to walk away and forget about it, but just see if they can resolve it first, because they might come up with a solution themselves. And then if you need to be a mediator, you can go on in and be a mediator. So it's like, if a group of children are playing with a ball and they're playing catch and someone wants to join in and they say, no, you're not joining in, then obviously that child might come to you and say, they're not letting me join in, and then you go over and speak to them. That's fine. But if you've got a group of children climbing a tree and someone's waiting for their turn and they're not letting them, just step back, and obviously you're going to be supervising if they're climbing a tree because it's risky play. But just be like, okay, how are they going to work this out? And if they're not working it out and that child hasn't been able to get their go, then intervene. But just know when to intervene and when not to intervene, basically. It's really important that you think about, before you say the no word or the stop word, and also think about other things that you could say, like, you know, really guys, is that appropriate? Should we be doing that? You know, things like that. So it's just thinking about that language really, and just speaking to your staff about the language that they use. Keep things simple and positive. As you've probably guessed, I'm a big fan of positivity. I'm a big fan in using really good language with the children, and using really good positive language as well, and just keeping things really simple with them. So your instructions to the children should be clear, short, and appropriate for all children, and as well for their age. So think about their age. Positive rules are usually better than negative ones. So for example, please hang your coat bags and coat stuff is better than don't leave your coats and bags on the floor. You know, just think about the things, because more often than not, they're going to leave them on the floor. You know, so just think about that. Oh, the bricks are much more better playing with on the table than what they are scattered all over the floor. Who's going to help me pick them up? Let's count to 10 and see if we can pick them up, and turn it into a really good positive game. So just think about the language. Let's use less negative language and more positive language. Say it once. Wow, wouldn't that be lovely? Just to say it once. Let's see if we can all install this. We know we repeat yourself, but if you continue to repeat yourself, a child will just end up tuning out. if you keep saying, if you tell a child what to do or what not to do too often, they will just switch off and just, well, fed up listening to him or fed up listening to her. So think about how many times, say it once, and then if they haven't done it, that's when you can bring those consequences in, or that's when you can bring those, right guys, where does it say that we shouldn't be tidying up? Where does it say that we don't listen to each other? You know, things like that. Bring the children back to the club rules, remind them of their behaviour expectations. So if you want to give a child one last chance, which we always do, to cooperate, because, you know, at the end of the day, we're not tyrants, we're professionals, we're nursery practitioners, we're TAs, we're teachers, we're sports coaches. We're there to have just as much fun as anybody else. So just remind the child of the consequences for not cooperating by bringing them back to the club rules and reminding them of the behaviour expectations. Come on, if you don't help tidy up, if you're just going to sit there kicking flour around the floor and you're not going to help tidy up the mess, you're not going to go outside to play. Saying that will hopefully trigger in them. I mean, I did have a child once that went, well, I don't want to go outside to play. Oh, that backfired on me. So you might get a little smart aleck like that. And I did have to turn away and laugh. I'm not going to laugh. But so I had to think of, well, okay, if you're not going to, you can do some jobs with me. And, oh, he didn't like doing that. He was like, well, I'm not doing jobs. I want to play. No, sorry, if you're not going to go outside to play, you can help do jobs with me. You can help tidy the rest of the mess away. Yeah, he soon changed his mind. So just think about things like that. Use a counting system. So we've spoke about a counting system. Start counting to 3. So they have a time limit to turn their behaviour around. By the time I count to 3 and turn around, I want to see you tidying up. If you haven't, this is what's going to happen. You can also use a bell. Clapping is a really good way, but also as well with children's play, give them 5-minute warnings. In 5 minutes, we're all going to tidy up. Or when you hear the bell, that's when we tidy up. So whatever works in your club, and it could be different every time, will enable your children to understand it's now time to cooperate. Especially on Fun Day Friday when they're all running around like lunatics. You know, think about, okay, what are we going to do? I employed a new manager at my club, my big club in Solihull, and she started doing a relaxation with the children at the end of the activity, and I had all these children lying down and they were like little angels. And they absolutely loved it. And I was like, wow. It was like, kind of like a well-being activity that she kind of just did she put some really nice twinkly music on, a little story. And she was like, right, guys, we're going to calm down because you're all about to climb the walls and we're just going to have a bit of relaxation for 10 minutes. And they were like different children, and it was a great strategy to bring in. I'd never seen it before. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. So just think about things like that, you know, just to help the children respond and cooperate. And the biggest thing for me is giving children the chance to succeed. So set the children up in your club to behave well and praise them for it. I think out of all of this, the one thing that you can do is just consistently praise the children. Praise the children that are being well behaved, praise the children that don't always be well behaved, but make sure that they know the feeling, because once they've had that feeling of that praise, they'll always want to do that. It's like the achievement certificates. We were giving out achievement certificates in the summer, and I had children coming to us saying, when can I get a certificate? What do I need to do to get one? And that really helped well with their behaviour, because it might be that a child was coming in crying every day, then a couple of days he didn't cry or she didn't cry, and then she got a certificate for it because she was able to manage her emotions. So it's just little things like that that will help children to succeed. So give the children simple tasks as well, or things that they can do to help out, especially those children that you know, if you leave them for 1 second, they're just going to be like a tornado. So If you, when it's tidy up time and you're getting ready to do activities, it might be that you go, Tom, can you put the Lego away, please? Poppy, can you put those books away, please? Oh, can you work as a group together to pick all of these jigsaw puzzles up and put them away for me? Giving them individual tasks, they're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to do this. Stickers, work a treat as well. And then just praising the children for their behaviour and for their efforts will encourage children to continue to be well behaved. There's nothing more draining when you've had a day in the club and all you've done is raise your voice and tell children, no, stop doing that. Why are we not using kind hands? Why are we running? Why are we doing that? Instead of going, oh, well done. That is really good work. Well done. Look how well behaved you're doing. Thank you so much for helping me. Thank you for helping your friend. You feel better within yourself instead of feeling drained. And what are these children up to? So giving them jobs, responsibilities, help them to get better at actually doing those tidying up jobs, because they're going to be like, oh, give me a job. I want a job to do. And they'll feel good about doing it as well. And they'll want to keep doing it. So they'll come to you and go, what job have you got for me today? And so it is really important that you understand those children that need the jobs and those children that don't need it. It will make such a difference in your working day as well. And prepare for challenging situations, because you will have them. There's never a day that goes by where there won't be any challenging situations. So there are going to be times where meeting a child's needs are going to be tricky. So, for example, ending an activity, especially painting. When you try and end painting, oh my word, the little ones, they will not have it. They'll paint all day. Or even playing outside, just general playtime, they love it. If they haven't finished what they're doing, they could kick off. So just think about these challenging situations in advance. Look at the children that you've got. You will know the children better than anybody, especially if they keep coming every holiday. And you'll know, for last time, when I told them it was time to go in, they ran and hid. And we had to look for them, or we had to coax them in. So think about how you're going to meet these children's needs in the club, how you're going to prevent that from happening again. So think about things like, as I've already spoke about, giving children a 5-minute warning before you need them to change activities, or even before they stop what they're doing. It might be, I don't know if any of you, when you have Lego in the club, you have piles and piles of Lego that children have brought to you and said, can you save my model for me, please? And by the end of the week, you've got more Lego on the side of models that have been saved than what you have in the box. I know I do at my club. So it's little things like that, instead of, no, we're not going to save it, just pop it back in the box. Oh my word, that is kick-off central with a child. That is tantrums all day. So just making sure that the children know that they can do that as well will stop those challenging situations from happening. And talk to the children about why you need their cooperation at that time. You know, say to them, prepare them for what you expect, prepare them for what's happening next. Come on, guys, we're going to tidy up because we're going to go into activities now, or we're going to have our morning talk now. Who wants to tell us some news about what they've been doing at school? Every child loves to tell news. Whoa, that's a deal breaker. So just think about those challenging situations. And rewards. Every child loves a reward. Who doesn't? So they love to get rewarded when they've achieved a milestone or when they have behaved well. And that's where our really lovely certificates come in. It's not just the achievement certificates that you can use. You can give out the stickers. Let them be a leader in the line. Oh my God, how many of the children love to be the leader? They can't get their coats on quick enough sometimes, because you say, right, the first one to put their coats on can be my leader. And then you have that one little child and you go, everyone line up behind Johnny. And no one wants to be the last one. No one. So just think about things like that. Or just using a simple, well done, guys. You've got your coats on really quickly. Well done, guys. You know, those sort of things are really going to, that well done, that praise gives children the best feeling in the world. Dalji, I'm going to use your club now as another example of where you would hold, and I think you still do, the award ceremonies that you hold for the children at your club?
We do at the end of every week, we do that. Sometimes, you know, if we've chosen a child and we know that they're finishing off on the Thursday or something, we sort of, you know, we just make that effort to identify, and we tell them all week, you know, are you going to be the star of the week? Are you going to be, you know, so that it keeps them motivated the whole way through. So yeah, every half term.
Behaviour?
Sorry?
Do you find that helps with behaviour?
Oh yeah, 100%. Because, you know, even we've had like certificates throughout the week. So, you know, the children that do need that behaviour management. So we've got little stars, and we use like a star chart, particular child's coming in mind, where we have to keep them on point all week. And then, you know, we just, you know, you're a superstar, and we just give an additional certificate to them. So, you know, again, it's just, you know how you were saying before, if we say something, you've got to follow it through, otherwise it means nothing.
Absolutely, and that's a really good example and a really lovely thing to do, and something that Daljit has done from day one, and she still does it now. So the children obviously that come to your club, Daljit, knows, well, I could be getting star of the week this week. So I think that's really lovely. So all of those things that we've spoken about are equally effective, and will allow the other children to see that, you know, the goals have been set, and that's something to look forward to. And as those children return, they'll know that, well, like they're doing Daljit's club, I could get star of the week here. Watch me, watch my behaviour, watch what I'm going to do. So I think that really installs a feel-good factor, and will boost up child's self-confidence and self-worth as well. And I think it makes the club look really nice and really valued, and that positive culture, praise, reward system that you have in place there, I think is outstanding. So yes, so the last one now, we're nearly done, is the dreaded how we address behaviour issues with parents. Oh, it's something that you know you have to do, but it's not always great to do. And also as well, for less confident people and people that probably haven't had to deal with these sort of issues before with parents, it can be quite intimidating, and it can be quite nerve-wracking. So I've just got some little tips and points of the best ways of how to address behaviour issues, because the first time you address behaviour issue with a parent is always the worst, but it does get better. So when handing over any challenging behaviour to parents, just consider the following. Ensure you're calm before sharing your concerns. So don't show them the fear that you've got, oh my God, I don't know how this parent's going to take this. So before you share their concerns of what's happened, just be calm. If you need to talk it through with your line manager, with the franchisee that owns your club, please do so. Do it through scenarios, talk it through with them, talk about what you're going to discuss and what the key factors that the parent needs to know about that child. It's really, really important, because no parent likes turning up to be told little Johnny's been hitting everyone today. Ensure you take enough time to talk away from other parents. So if you've got a big queue of parents, just take that parent to the side and go, oh, can I have a quick chat with you? And just take them away from everyone else, because there's nothing more embarrassing than parents hearing it. It might be that you phone them up at work. It might be that it's not appropriate what you need to tell them to discuss it when they're in the club, but actually it's more appropriate to speak to them over the phone. Parents appreciate that, because no one wants to be told that little Johnny, oh yeah, that's fine, Leanne, don't worry. No one needs to be told that little Johnny has gone around hitting everyone with a dinosaur all day, every day, you know, or that he's just punched someone in the face, because that does happen. It sounds extreme, but it does happen. So just think about when the situation that you've got to tell the parent about that behaviour, whether it's appropriate to do it in the club or whether you feel that you need to do it over the phone. Always have positive intentions by explaining what has happened and how it's been dealt with. So when I talk to a parent about behaviour issues, I always start with a positive and go, do you know what, they've had a really good morning, but this happened. I'll explain the situation, explain what they were doing, explain what was going on around them, explain what they did, and then I explain how it's been dealt with. And then you kind of like get into the rhythm of talking with the parent then about things, you know, things could be going on at home, things could be going on, I don't know, at school. As I said, there could be some assessments going on because they're looking into other factors to do with behaviour. I don't know, but it's just a really good way to try and delve in and get a relationship with the parents to find out, you know, why this is happening, especially if it's occurring all the time. And that's where we'll gather more information about the child, asking questions, especially if it's behaviour that keeps happening, you know. And then it's really good to then, when that parent comes in and the child's had a really good day, you then turn around to them and say, they've had such a good day today. We've told them they've had a certificate, they've been rewarded, they've been great. Excuse me. The parent really loves that. I've had a child coming to me for years now, and in October half term, he just completely turned a corner. He's been coming to me since he was about 4, and literally more often than not, every day I'll be speaking to mum and dad saying, he's done this today, he's done that today, and they'll be like, oh, what more can he do, literally. And then at October half term, I was speaking to mum and I was like, oh my God, he's had such a good day. And she said, do you know what, Emma, he's even been so well behaved in school as well. So she's come to us, and I knew that things were happening in school and he was having a one-to-one. So she's come to us and told us that because we've delved more into it and because we're telling her about things as well. At first, she didn't want to know. Nothing was wrong with her little angel. He was a complete little angel, nothing happened. But then we were talking to other parents, and other parents were saying to us, can you keep their child away from that child because they've had issues with them in school? And that's how we picked up on that. The issues we were having at the club was the same at school. And that's when I started speaking to the parents and saying, you know, is everything okay at school? What's happening there? And then they started to build that relationship up with me. And now it's kind of like a 360. And he is actually a little angel. As he's got older, his behaviour has got so much better. But before, you know, he would kick and just wouldn't talk to us. He would tell us, I don't like it here, it's rubbish, you know, and we'd tell his mum and dad, and his mum and dad would talk to him, and they were really not happy with how he's behaved. But now he's completely different. So that was with us working with the parents and supporting the child and discouraging the behaviour. So, you know, I would say to them, they would say to me, yeah?
Yeah, are you doing your meeting now? Yeah. So if I come off this one, am I okay coming off this one? Yeah. Right, okay then. I won't be long. See you, bye.
Okay, so as I was saying, working with that parent and supporting the child and speaking to her about, you know, is there anything that he wants to bring into the club? Is there anyone that we need to, you know, is there anybody that comes into the club that triggers his behaviour? And there were certain children that when they were in the club at the same time, we'd have to put them in different groups. So it's about supporting that and discouraging the behaviour, and then just bringing in that rewards culture as well around his interests, or around the interests of the child. And we found that worked really well, and has got us to where we are now with him, where he's just an absolute pleasure to have in our club now. Consistency is key as well. So whatever you're doing in the club needs to be done at home. So I find what works really well with the younger ones, so our 3 and 4 year olds, is having a jar, and in a jar will be, I don't know, some toy dinosaurs or some counters or something. And then every time that they display any unwanted behaviour or any challenging behaviour, taking one of those things out, they're like, no, put it back in. And then it's kind of like a reward chart where they get stickers. But this is, they have to take one of their toys out of their jar when, you know, we have to talk to them about any challenging behaviour, and they don't like it. And then they take it home, parents do it at home, And then if they don't have anything out for like 5 days solid, they get a reward at the end of it, at the end of the week. So that's really good to use with the younger children as well, but that's only if it's something that's consistently happening. And then once you've done all of that, I would always end the discussion with a positive. This then helps maintain trust, it helps maintain a good relationship with the parents and ensure that they are on board with you. So I know sometimes you only see the children once or twice a year, but sometimes those children, when you get them, when you see them on the register, the first thing you do is go, oh, I haven't got them in, have I? You know, and you just kind of like, you're anticipating what's happening in the day, and you're kind of like you're getting that anxiety, aren't you? You know, like, oh, got to keep them away from this child, I've got to keep them away from this child. But actually speaking to the parents and having that transparency with the parents and actually sharing those concerns, but talking to them and saying, what do they do in school? What do you do at home? Does he behave like this normally? You know, is there anything we need to do differently here? Because it could be the environment that's causing that child to behave the way that it's behaving. It could be being mixed in with the older children. You know, so it's just really good to have those really good quality discussions, because parents don't like to say when there's anything to do with their child, when there's anything happening in terms of assessments being done, in terms of behaviour assessments being done, in terms of unwanted behaviour at school, having one-to-ones at school. They don't like to admit to any of that. So I always start with a positive, put in what their concern is, have that discussion, talk about, right, how are we going to support you and your child? Let's monitor this. Let's not have this happen again. And then end with a positive. And I always end with, you know, tomorrow's a different day. We're going to have a really good day tomorrow. And when they come in the morning, I'll say to the child, we're going to have a good day today, aren't we? And they'll go, yes, Emma. More often than not, they don't. Mm-hmm. But let's set them up to have a good day. So, and that's just some key points about how to address the behaviour issues with parents. But if you have any concerns about, oh my God, what do I say to these parents? I don't want, you know, speak to your manager, speak to your line manager, speak to the franchisees that own. You can always pick up the phone and speak to me as well. I can assure you there is nothing that I haven't dealt with a parent in all the years that I've been working as a childcare professional. So please feel free to do that. Questions? Has anyone got any questions? Okay, I'm taking that's a no because no one said anything. So that's it for now. I'd just like to thank everybody for joining us. I hope you found it really useful. I hope it's given you a bit of ideas of how to promote positive behaviour within the club and amongst your staff team, how to deal with it, how to address parents. But if you do have any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact a member of the head office team. You can contact me at Solihull office at funfestholidayclub.co.uk, or you can just speak to your franchisee and they can pass on. So thank you very much.
Emma?
Yeah.
Sorry, one quick one. This recording, where it will be saved? Because Aarti wants to see as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna upload it onto the iFlourish.
iFlourish, okay.
Yeah. So once it's uploaded, I'll let everybody know, and I'll send and you'll all get the link to it. And then if you want any of your staff team to see it, we can set the staff team up with it as well. Is that okay, Jack?
Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Emma.
Perfect. Right, thanks guys. Have a lovely evening, and I'll see some of you if I come out to visit your club next week, if anybody's open. If not, have a lovely Christmas, and I will see you in the new year. Okay,
thanks, Emma.
guys.
You too.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.